So now we are going to learn extensive form representation of a game, much like we learned normal form representation of a game. Remember one thing, just before the beginning, I must say that in game theory, writing is a very important component. Okay, whenever you are drawing some representation of a game and you are solving it, that's very easy. That's the easier part. The difficult part is to write the steps in English. That's the difficult part. And for that, you must know what to write. For example, you do not write extensive form games. Okay, that's common. We at times we say that extensive form games, but the actual writing should be extensive form representation of a game. So we are learning a representation. Okay. Now, when we are learning a certain form of representation of a game, the natural question that comes in our mind is what kind of game we are actually interested in, for which such a representation will be helpful. So, because we already know normal form representation of a game, and the amount of game theory that we have learned, the normal form representation was sufficient to represent all those games and also to apply the several methods of solving a game or finding different kinds of equilibrium. Okay, so why now extensive form? It is because just after learning this, we are going to move into something called a dynamic game. Okay, dynamic games. All right, and I'll send you the notes. In the first note, you will see that when I am going to represent a dynamic game, okay, a game where time is explicit and important, there, though we can have normal form representations, and we will see that also, that how to how to represent a dynamic game in a normal form, but we will also see why extensive form representation is specifically helpful, okay, when we are dealing with dynamic games. But for the time being, we are learning what kind of representation that is, or this is. Now, in normal form, we expressed a lot of things regarding a game, and while stating the definition, sort of, we explicitly said what kinds of elements there must be in a game, and normal form represents the bare minimum of it. That is the minimum amount of information which will allow us to solve the game. Now, in extensive form, obviously extensive as the term suggests, we will be going for displaying a lot more informations that were not apparent in normal form, along with all the informations that were apparent in normal form. So what are the questions, the answers of which we may expect, or we will expect in the extensive form representation? So what are them? First is who. So that is the old question. Then comes when. Because I just said that this representation becomes useful in dynamic games. So where time is explicit, when is a very important component. Then comes what action. So when it is time of a player to play, what are the actions that are available? So what actions? Then comes a very important question, that is the level of knowledge, or a favorable term would be information, though they are not entirely synonymous. But what we mean by this is when a player is choosing an action, or a player is at a point where she has to choose an action, what are the informations, or what is the knowledge that this player has regarding the game that is being played. Okay, and we will see that this will become a very important component. And then, since we are stressing on actions, obviously outcome as a function of actions. Now, this is something that we will not work with explicitly, but we'll just keep on mentioning. So outcome as a function of actions. What this question means is, what is the outcome when players choose certain actions in certain circumstances in a definite order? Okay, so that's what it means by outcome as a function of actions. And then comes obviously payoffs. So as you can see, there are some questions which were answered in the normal form, and there are some new questions which will now be answered in extensive form representation. All right. Now the apparatus that we need to represent a game in its extensive form is called game tree. Why it is called game tree? Let us work out an example and it will be apparent why it is called a game tree. Okay. So we will consider a variant of the standard matching pennies, but this time we will consider it with sequential moves. So matching pennies with sequential moves. Obviously, when I'm saying it is sequential, the aspect of time comes in. That is my question, when? Now, let us first draw the representation, and while drawing the representation, we will assume without causing any harm that player 1, so we are considering standard matching pennies with a variant. So there are two players. So player 1 moves first as player 1, and then player 2 moves second. So the numbering of the player is signifying or is representing their chance of playing the game or the order of entry in the game. So now let's look at the representation. Okay, and let's see whether we get the answers of all these questions, okay, or we just end up with some of them. Okay, so matching pennies with sequential move. So first I will draw an open circle, okay, and this open circle is called initial node. Why? Because it is this point from which the game starts. So there is nothing before this open circle or initial node. We said that player 1 moves first, so this is player 1's initial node is to player 1, okay. So here we write 1. Then comes the available actions. So the available actions, they are, let's take a smaller line. Yeah? Okay. So the available actions are head, we represent it by H, and then tail. All right. Here we mark a dot, okay, and this dot signifies the decision nodes of player 2. So this is a decision node. And to whom it belongs? It belongs to player 2. So here we write player 2. Then again, the available actions of player 2 at this point are also head and tail. head and tail. All right. So player 1 moves first. So before player 1's move, there was nothing that happened in the game. This is initial node. Why? Because obviously this is also a decision node, a point where a player is taking a decision, or a player is asked to take a decision. Okay, a decision node. So obviously this decision node goes to player 1, but to signify the special characteristics of this point, that it is the first starting of the game, we represent it by an open circle and call it initial node. Okay, so then comes the play of player 2. So player 1 here chooses between two actions, head and tail, and then comes player 2's turn. These are solid dots representing decision nodes of player 2. And as the general matching pennies goes, player 2 also has two actions available at each of the decision nodes, right? So head and tail, head and tail. And after player 2's play, is the time to look at the payoff. Now, these four solid dots, they are called terminal nodes. Why? Because as the name suggests, when the game reaches these nodes, the game ends. So the game terminates. Because of that, they are the terminal nodes. It is as simple as that. Now, how to write the payoffs? Because now our representation is extensive form. We write the payoff in these kind of brackets. All right. And what will be the general order of writing the payoff? The general order will be this. See here, the game started with the play of player 1. So player 1's payoff will come first. Player 1's payoff will come first. And then comes player 2's payoff. Remember how this ordering is being decided? It is decided on the basis of who is starting the game. So player 1 played first. So the first payoff is player 1's payoff. So what are the payoffs? -1, +1, right? +1, -1, then +1, -1, and obviously -1, +1. Okay. So just to repeat, that means whenever there is a match, so two heads or two tails, the money goes to, the payoff goes to player 2 here and here. And whenever there is a mismatch, head tail or tail head, the payoff goes to the money, positive amount of money goes to player 1. So this is our sequential move game version of matching pennies, and we have represented it in extensive form. Note that there is a normal form representation, okay, of this game, and that normal form representation is definitely not the normal form representation that you know of a standard matching pennies. Okay, they are different. How they are, that we will study in the next class. Okay, now for the time being, obviously this is a very nice game for player 2. Why? Because player 2 can observe what player 1 is doing. So if player 2 can observe what player 1 is doing, then this matching pennies becomes a heaven for the second player and definitely a hell for the first player, right? Okay, so this is kind of a trivial game, and this is not the matching pennies we will want. Or if there is a matching pennies like this, we will always want to be the second player. All right. Now, we have the answers of all these questions, do we? So who, 1 and 2, when? So we look at decision node and we say, okay, at this point, all right, then what actions? So H and T, H and T. Level of knowledge on information. So here 2 knows that I am at this decision node. That means 2 knows that player 1 has played H. Here, when 2 is at this node, player 2 knows that player 1 plays T, and that's why 2 is at this node with the actions H and T. So that is the level of knowledge or information, right? Okay, or we will, let's stick to the word information. That's a better term for our use. And for player one knows that he is going to start the game. Okay, so outcome as a function of actions. So action is player 1 has chose H and player 2 chose H. So 2H, we here 1H, then player 2's H, and we get this outcome here. Okay, and what are the payoffs? -1 +1. So obviously this gives us all that we knew in normal form representation and some more. The most important part is number 1 is when 2 is moving after player 1. And what is the number 2? That's very important. That is 2 knows what 1 has done. So observation. All right. Okay. Now, in games like this, where a player knows what the rival player did just before his play, okay, these are games we call games of perfect information. Again, you may hear perfect information game, but that's not really true. If you have to write, you must write games of perfect information. Okay, so what is the game? What is a game of perfect information? A game where one player can observe. So that is the important part. One player can observe what is the rival doing and when at rival's previous move. So can observe rival's previous moves. So let's look at this game. It's a very simple game. And here player 2 can observe what his rival player 1 has done in his previous move, that is chosen H or T. So it's a game of perfect information. Naturally, not all games are this simple, right? So obviously, if there is a game of perfect information, there is always a game of imperfect information. Okay. So let's look at a game of imperfect information. And before going into that, we must talk about how we segregate a game of perfect information and a game of imperfect information. Obviously, you will say that we know a game of perfect information is where you can observe rival's previous move, and then by definition, the imperfect information signifies where I cannot observe rivals' previous moves. But then, if I can categorize in these two components, or if I can segregate in this way, perfect and imperfect, then we need another notation or a specific notation which will allow us to denote in extensive form representation whether we are dealing with a game of perfect information or a game of imperfect information. Okay, so for that, to segregate between a game of perfect information and a game of imperfect information, we use information sets. Set, which signifies what a player knows when she has to make a move. Okay, so information set. In reference to the game that we have just drawn, okay, information set is a set, is obviously a collection because it's a set. So a collection of what? A collection of a subset of a player's decision nodes. So a collection of a subset of a player's decision nodes. Now, here, first thing that we want to observe is that, so information set basically contains decision nodes. That is here. The other important thing is that information set, if I talk about any information set, so a specific information set, okay, it belongs to one player. By which I mean there cannot be a case where two players share one information set. That is not going to happen. So when I'm talking about information set, I'm talking about a collection of decision nodes and decision nodes which belongs to a single player. Okay. So there in the earlier game we had two players. So there will be player one's information set and obviously there will be player two's information set. And player one had one decision node which was initial node and player two had two decision nodes, right? So let's see what are the information sets of each of those two players. So player one, for player one, there was one information set, right? One information set which contained the initial node. And then for player two, there were two information sets. Two information sets, each containing one decision node. Okay. Now, another question that comes in our mind is that how inclusion of a decision node reflects information. So as I said earlier, that if player 2 is on the decision node drawn on the left side, that means that player 2 has this information that the previous move of player 1 was playing H. Similarly, if player 2 is on the decision node at the right, then player 2 knows that in the previous move player 1 played T. Okay. Now they are two information sets, obviously, because each of those decision nodes, they have different informations, right? So one has this information, player 1 played H, the other has this information, player 1 played T. So since the informations are different, the information sets are definitely different. Okay. Now we will go to that part which basically asked us to define something called an information set. That is what? There is a game of imperfect information. Again, what will be that game? So a game of imperfect information, is where at least one of the players, that is either player 1 or player 2, doesn't know what was rival's previous move. Okay. So what rivals did in the previous move. So we'll consider that kind of a matching pennies. So matching pennies with imperfect information. Now here, how are we incorporating it? We are simply saying that player 1 makes his move, but just covers the top of the coin, okay, by hand, so that player 2 cannot observe what was player 1's move. Okay, so player 1 is making his move, open circle, player 1, available actions H and T, but here there is a difference. Player 1 covers the coin. So player 2 cannot observe what has turned up. Now, player 2 has two options, head and tail. Here also, two actions, head and tail. And obviously, the payoffs, they remain the same, denoted in the same way. So if there is a mismatch, it goes to player 1. And if there is a match, it goes to player 2. But how to introduce that player 2 doesn't observe player 1's move? Now, let's see what this means. This means that player 2 doesn't know whether player 1 has played H or player 1 has played T. This means player 2 only knows that player 1 has played. So, at this decision node, player 2 has this information that player 1 has played. Also at this decision node, player 2 has this information that player 1 has played. That means these two decision nodes contain the same information for player 2. So they belong to the same information set, and often we, because of that, write player 2 here. The reason being we want to save space, nothing else. Okay. Now, in that case, how to solve this game? Something that we'll be dealing after some time. But for the time being, we make a very important observation. The observation is this: if a game is a game of perfect information, then all the information sets are singleton. And if a game is of imperfect information like this one, then not all the information sets are singleton. For example, this information set. Okay, so this can be used to define a game of perfect information. So our observation helps us to define a game of perfect information. So what is a game of perfect information? It is a game where all information sets, okay, are singleton. And when they are not, they give us a game like this. Now, there is one aspect of this game that is very interesting, and that interesting aspect is that, you see, here I have considered a sequential game, right, where player 2 moves second but cannot observe that what was the play of player 1. Now let us consider the standard matching penny. So what happens in standard matching pennies? In standard matching pennies, player 1 and player 2, they play simultaneously. So in that case also, player 2 cannot observe what player 1 has played, right? So this means that as long as player 2 cannot observe what player 1 is doing, it doesn't matter whether I'm considering a sequential game with imperfect information or the standard matching pennies with simultaneous move. The extensive form representation remains the same. So what is the important condition here? The important condition is cannot observe. So if player 2 cannot observe, then timing becomes irrelevant, right? Then timing becomes irrelevant. Our matching pen is with imperfect information in extensive form representation represent the exact same standard matching pennies, right? Okay.